Okay, we'll have an invocation by Mr. Alvin Tilbert, followed by the pledge by Mr. Clayton Vosley. Everyone, please rise.
Dear Lord, we ask in this prayer today that you look. Give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and an understanding, dear God, that to realize that what we do here today will be pleasing and acceptable in your sight. Father, we're asking and praying that you look over this community. We're asking and praying that you look over this country and this nation. And Father, we're praying that you bring our soldiers home. And Father, we pray and ask that the decision that we make here today will not be a decision of self, but a decision of you. For these and all blessings, we ask in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Cavalier. Mr. Seahan. J. Bear.
Here.
Mr. Lambert. Mr. Pizzolato. Mr. Tillman. Mr. Wazan. Mr. Kevin. Ms. Williams. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay, I have two announcements to make before we begin. First, this is from Ms. Councilperson Johnny Pizzolata. Due to a death in my immediate family, I will not be attending this evening's Budget and Finance Committee meeting. I will, of course, review the minutes and consult the council staff to determine if any actions are necessary on my part. I also had a phone call from Joey Seahan. He's on his way back from Lafayette right now, and they're in some bad weather, and he said he'd try to get here before the end of the meeting. So with that said, we'll begin it, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Elford.
Okay, first we'd like to ask that the first three items, District Court, District Attorney, and Criminal Court Fund, be delayed to the end of the meeting or even for the next meeting. We're not really sure.
Okay, we have a motion to hold items A, B, and C. It's been by Councilman Clayton Vazan, seconded by Councilperson Kevin Vazan. Seeing no lights on the matter, all in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Okay, motion passes. Continue.
Okay, the next item is the Health Unit Fund. It's on page 176. The expenditures are basically the same except for the $1 million transfer to the Capital Improvement Fund, and this is to add to their Health Unit Building Fund, and they're using excess money that we've collected from the ad valorem taxes. Everything else is pretty much the same.
Okay, I don't see any lights. Continue. No questions.
Okay,
Very good.
Okay, the next item is the Mental Health Fund on page 193. This would be the mental health side. Their administration is recommending $203,010. And this department continues to use the counselors on a contractual basis.
Okay, did everyone turn to page 193? Seeing no lights. Okay, continue.
Okay, on page 195, we have the substance abuse section. Recommendation is $166,654 for total expenditures.
Just cost of living increases or regular?
No, sir. Actually, it's just using up their money. They don't have any significant changes.
Okay. Okay, seeing no questions, continue.
Okay, the next one is the Housing and Human Services Department. This is only the general fund section first, and that is on page 73. Okay, the department is $368,909. This is a 1.7% increase over last year. The majority of their administrative fees are charged to grants, which I'll go into afterwards. This is only the general fund portion.
Okay, one light. Ms. Cavalier.
I'm looking at number of grant applications in 2009 and 2010, 15 and 15. We hired a new grant writer. That number should have changed. What's the deal? I mean, I'm expecting to see great things from this new grant writer. If we stay in the same,
At this point, we don't have a new grant writer on staff, but they should be on staff shortly. We're going through the process, and we're hoping to have them on by the end of this month. So we don't have the new grants writer on staff yet.
but we are getting a new grants writer.
We are.
So that number should have changed. That number ought to be at least 30
Well,
or 60
15's
or
current
90.
ones, I think, approved. I mean, it's conservative. This, I think, is gonna change, it's gonna go up. But, until we get the new grants writer in and can actually see what grants are gonna transpire, we didn't adjust it yet, but it should change as the year goes.
Now, this grant writer is gonna be occupied with the stimulus money that we're receiving?
No, not strictly that. I
Okay.
mean, we're looking at other grants and other things that are out there in addition to the stimulus money, because there are some ongoing grants that we do have that we also would like to increase some of the funding in those, either through supplemental requests or some additional funding sources that we don't normally get with those, because some of our grants we can't ask for additional and competitive, but you have to have the ability and the time to write the additional grants for those.
Who writes your grants for your Head Start? Is that the director herself who's doing that, or?
She does it with the grants writer we have on staff now. So the grants, the way the grants work, your funding cycles now, you have to do a complete, I believe it's a complete application, reapplication, which is a little more involved every 3 years. But you have to do an annual application every year for your funding. But you have to completely redo everything. It's almost like a competitive
Okay.
on every third year.
I find that from what we get to approve and, see, that they're very aggressive, and I think it's wonderful. So, that department, if we could see the other departments starting to, grow with that, I think it would affect, and it would change. So I'm hoping with the new grant writer that these numbers will double, and that we'll see all of this money coming in that we could qualify for.
Yeah, when you brought up the Head Start, this year there was additional money put out that hadn't been in the past years. So when it did come up, we did go after some additional funds, and we're looking to see that would hopefully occur next year, that additional funds would be made available.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, continuing with lights, Councilperson Clayton Vazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Ware, if I might.
Yes, go ahead.
My colleague spurs a question to me. She mentioned Head Start, and just a question, Darrell. Have you included, say, other quasi-governmental subsidiaries such as Start, or last night I heard questions about the Haven also, that maybe they weren't getting enough money. Have we included them in our stimulus package?
We have not applied for any grants for any particular agency. The ones that Start were in, what happened in that process with Start and I believe Gulf Coast Teaching, we had stimulus funds that came in for homeless, and it was the rapid rehousing and homeless prevention, which was strictly, you can only do those two items with that funding. When we put our application for that funding, we spelled out what we were going to do. But we also looked at who was in the homeless coalition. That's who you work with for the homeless funding, and those two work in those areas already. That they already do prevention of homeless. They already do housing of homeless. Those were not funds in that round, or that amount of money we got had nothing to do with abuse funds, which is different than those funds. It's a little different. So that's why in that round there, the only ones we were dealing with Start and Gulf Coast Teaching. That was not anything to do with it's the homeless funds to do with abused or that type of shelter. Was not in that funding.
I just wonder about that, because last night, and I think before we were done with this observation of the 2010 budget, I think we may run into some other small problems, and I don't fully understand your explanation why they're not part of it, and I'm sure you've given me the explanation. I'm sure it's not you. I'm sure it's me that just doesn't understand. Is that right? I'm sure you've given me the proper answer.
That you're asking particularly about the funding that was on last night, right?
Well, not just that. My original question is that whether or not we had included such quasi governmental subsidiaries such as Start and Haven, and you tell me that we haven't. And that's in the
Well,
stimulus
also,
package.
the way the process works for the homeless program is usually through a supernova. And you have to have what they call a coalition to do that. And what they call it is a continuum of care. Those funds are totally separate from the funds that we had on the agenda last night. In that funding, if you belong to the coalition, and all homeless providers can belong to the coalition, you get in with that group, and there's a homeless coalition for the region. And what they do is, all the homeless providers are part of that group. When they apply for the Supernova funding, which comes out usually annually, they as a group rank all of their own applications that they put into the process. So as a group, they rank them, and the applications are put in by that coalition separate from us. We're part of the coalition. And now the Haven may be part of the coalition too. I'm not 100% sure.
Understand.
But we are part of that coalition, and we do support and work with the coalition. There's other funding that goes for homeless strictly direct to the coalition itself. That's not the funding that we dealt with last night. So what I'm saying is, in there, that funding, no, we did not put in funding to specifically deal with one agency or another. That was money to deal with homeless the way it came in. But the coalition itself does apply annually and does get funded. Gulf Coast gets funded. The START gets funding. There's other agencies in there that do get funding, and I don't know all the ones that do, but several of them do get funding because they apply as a coalition,
Separately.
separate from us. There's separate funding there than the funding that we get.
Okay, I see a couple other lights. That's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Next light is Mr. Lander Williams.
Yeah, my question comes in, Darryl. Do you guys get a copy of each grant that's available through the federal government, through HUD?
You get a notice that is posted on the website.
Because I know there was 3 that had something to do with domestic violence, the study of, the research, how it affected children, blah, 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 that could have been tied in with, let's say like the Haven, who has, a $36,000 deficit this year. But they could have been combined with our, Head Start program. So I guess my question is, when it comes in, are we contacting these other agencies to let them know that there are grants available that we can kind of partner with them on? Or are we just looking at it and saying that this is something we wouldn't qualify for and then just going on to the next thing?
Information is usually sent to agencies that we're aware of that may be able to utilize the grants. Information is sent saying these grants are available. Now, if they wish to go and apply further, they have to go and look through the process and see what's required to apply. In some cases, they may come back to us and ask for some assistance, and sometimes they don't. But we don't particularly get notice of everything that's out there. We go in and search to see what's out there. But we know certain times of the year, certain funding is coming up. So we do go look around those times to see when it's coming out. Some years it comes out the same time every year. Other times it may be a couple of months different. And then they also change the way they put the funding out some years. Some years they change the process up a little bit. But we do usually send information out to different agencies, other ones even than just government, but other ones that might be nonprofits. We do send information out to them.
I just asked because I know in the ERA funds there was a lot of money for the prevention of domestic violence and the assistance in those that are affected by domestic violence. And I'm using the Haven because they were the first ones to come before us. But I guess my question is, as of right now, you're saying that they are not or have not been included in any of the stimulus money that has been requested for this fiscal year or the next fiscal year?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
The monies that we went after is monies that we could do the applications on, the ones that we have. I can't tell you that information was not sent to them, because it may have been, but whether they went any further with it, I couldn't tell you. Because if we send the information and the agency doesn't go forward with it, it doesn't necessarily mean that the government's going to be applying for it. It could be the agency on its own, because
Okay.
we don't apply for every agency.
I'm with Ms. Cavalier that the number of grants should be increased, especially with the new person that's about to come on. So I would ask, if you guys do not have it set up, there's no reason that me as a council person, I get grant notifications every day. So I would hope that they're set up that they can receive the same thing, whether it's new or not, because I know with the ERA funds, there were a lot of notifications. I think a couple of us up here get them all the time, and domestic violence was something that was really pushed in this one. So that would have been one area that we could have probably helped out with this other agency. So if
Well,
you could just make sure.
Yeah, and we do send information out, and I will tell you with the ERA grants and some of the grants that come out, your deadlines are all very similar, and you can only write so many grants at a particular point in time. And some of them were very involved, some of them were not as involved, but it does take a lot of time to put, so you kind of get to the point, you do the ones, as many as you can do, and sometimes you get a lot of notices, but you can't request all of them. And some of them do require matches. Some require 50% match, some require 25% match, some come in with 100%. We try to go as many as we can for the 100%,
Right.
because some of the match requirements get pretty high.
I would just say, again, in the future, though, that we make sure that we're receiving all of those notices and that they're going out to these agencies, especially those that are receiving some type of funding from the parish government. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Continue with lights, Mr. Kevin Vazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could I ask a question? The salary of the new person, do you know what that is roughly? I know it's probably a min and a max, but if you could just give me a ballpark. Yeah, the new grants writer, yes, sir. I know I've seen this before, but is that if I'm reading this correctly, is that the senior grants writer is the new one?
No, it's in the mid-30s.
It's the other one, okay, so it's 35,000 to 55,000, if I'm reading this right. And this is probably just a function, I know they've hit this before, but I'm gonna hit it hard. Probably just a function of not wanting to set your goals too high, but sometimes we set our goals too low, you know. Sitting up here, I don't know, most of what you just said was almost a blur to me. I mean, I'm catching up on how all this stuff works, but to me, $35,000 to $55,000, and what I see in the projected outputs, and again, just being a businessman, my projected output on grant applications approved is 0 change. My projected output on number of grant applications is 2 higher that are researched for other departments. And then programs implemented, I'm not even going to count that, because the way I slice things, the grant writer is going to just be concerned with these 2 bottom things. So I would say let's increase our goals for this person, or let's throw out that $35,000, $55,000. I'm for the money. I'm for the grants writer. But getting only 2 more grant applications researched for other departments and nothing else out of it on the output side, it's just a bad it's a bad cost benefit analysis.
I
to me.
think what happened too is when we put this together early on, this was before we having the position even was approved, when we initially submitted.
Okay. Well, I would say let's amend it. Let's up that, and I'm all for it. I think it's a good position, but I just want to show something on the other end. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Cavalier.
Yeah. Darryl, when you were talking, you talked about a coalition that, you know, they can belong to with START and Gulf South Teaching Services. But to apply for the stimulus money, you have to have a taxing authority, don't you?
Not necessarily, because a coalition itself is not a taxing authority,
Right.
and they apply for federal grants directly in many cases, and actually most of their money comes direct from HUD, and they're not a taxing authority, but it comes under them, and they administer it. The coalition administers it, but the grants go to partners in the coalition, so
Okay.
they're not a taxing authority. Not all of them require.
Okay. I would like you to make sure that when you go back and talk tomorrow to them, since Ms. Williams and Mr. Wazan have given you some direction, make sure that stimulus money, I'm telling you right now, I want you to go after the stimulus money that we can use for the Haven so that we do not have to supplement it with the general funds. That's what I would love it if you would find $100,000 grant, okay, that they could apply for. And that way we could put zero from the general fund for us. Because right now, we need to give them $35,000 to get out the hole, and then we need to give them at least another 40 to, you know, even work next year, okay? So if you could find something, but make sure that if it's a public, you know, tax authority, that we are the authors of that then, you know, get them involved in it, and start in Gulf Coast, you know, they can bring all of their experience to the table too, whatever gets that grant for us, because the need is there. And, you know, I would, like I said, I would love to give them all the money they need so that we could increase the numbers, because they do have the waiting list. So that's all I'm asking, is when we, because I know that before, when it was explained about stimulus money and just Joe Blow applying for it, you know, and they talked about all these different organizations, a lot of it, you have to have a taxing authority. So I just make sure that you give them some leadership on that front. Thank you.
I don't have any more lights, but I got one question, Darrell. Underneath your other services and charges, I see a big increase in the commodities transportation. What is that related to? There's a big increase in that expense.
On which page?
I'm looking at the big budget that was on page 55. It says commodities. Maybe Jamie can answer that. I see there was a big increase on the commodities transportation.
That would be the cost of bringing the commodities in. I think they have, let's see, commodities transportation, going from 19,000 to 22,000, Darrell.
Yeah, they charge us by the, you charge by the pound, so much a pound for what they truck in. And we looked at kind of so far, we've been lucky in I'd say the past 3 years, we haven't been charged like they could charge us. So we looked at what we were getting this past year and the amount of food that we were getting. So we estimated it based on what they told us they charge per pound. They charge you so much per pound for the food and so much a pound for the delivery of it. So
So in other words, wherever we get this stuff from, they charge us for the transportation. We pay transportation.
They can, but this past couple of years they haven't. And then the transportation that we have had to utilize has been our own transportation costs to transport it from the warehouse to the different sites we go to. But there also is a fee that they could charge us. But like I said, the past probably 3 years, we haven't been getting charged for it.
What is the value of the commodities received? Have y'all ever put a pencil to it?
We've looked at it. I could get it to you. It's a pretty good amount when you look at what they value it at, and when you start looking at what they would charge you. I think it might be 4 cents a pound or 2 cents. It's a small amount per pound, but when you look at the actual value of the commodity, it's a lot higher.
Yeah, I'd like to know that.
I could get you an estimate on that.
Yeah, I'd like to know what that figure is, because,
Yeah.
you know, when people see this, they say, oh, man, we're paying $22,000 for transportation, but in terms of what we receive, it's
I would
far
say
greater.
it's 5 to 6 times, just off the top of my head, but I can get you a better number.
Thank you. I still have one more light, sir. Thank you. Mr. Kevin Vaze.
And I'm sorry, this is my first time understanding what I'm doing, so I apologize to my colleagues for talking too much, which I do anyway. But how come? Do you think that the 2009 is really exactly the same as 2008 actual as far as deliverables? I find it weird that we would have the exact same number in all three categories, unless. And I'm talking about actual, not 2010. I know that goes up a little bit.
Oh, you mean the actual for 2008?
The 2008 is exactly the same as the 2009. Now, your budget went down by anywhere from $50,000 to $20,000, so that's, I guess, good. But it seems odd that it would be exactly the same.
But 2009 is still estimated.
It's
When we
still-
start the
it's
process,
projected.
we're starting the summertime, so we're estimating almost half the year as to what we think we're going to have. So
Okay.
I mean, the 22, when you're talking about the deliverables, 22 and 22, that 22 for 2009 is still estimated. We still
Do
have
you know how
7
many we
months.
actually have so far, like to date, at October 30, whatever day it is, not 30th, but on the on number of grant applications approved?
I could get it for you. on how many's
I'm
approved to
just
point
curious.
to this
I
point.
know it's my first time to the dance, so I probably don't understand the process, but it's weird to see deliverables exactly the same year over year. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Darrell, I see no further lights. Thank you. I just want to make an announcement. Once your budget is complete, you're free to leave. If in case you have other things to do, you don't have to stay for the entire budget meeting, so don't feel uncomfortable if you leave. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Elba, continue, please.
Before we go on to the next item, I wanted to let Ms. Williams know that we did contact several outside agencies. I don't know if I copied you on it, but I know I copied Mr. Abear because he was part of our team with the stimulus package. When all the applications started coming through and all the lists, if we thought that they could have any chance of getting any one of those grants, we were sending out emails left and right. I'm sure he can tell you that we were sending them out like crazy. And we received several phone calls. They went online. They checked to see if they were eligible. A lot of them didn't qualify. A lot of them had match. So we did notify several outside agencies, and I'll be happy to give you a list. In fact, I can do it after the meeting. Okay. On the funds, Darrell just left, and we were just talking about his general fund, but just give you an idea of how much he administers. In 2009, when we did the original budget, we actually brought to you $6.9 million in grants, and in 2010, he's got $8.3 million. The largest increase is about $1.2 million, which represents the temporary disaster and housing grant from FEMA. I just wanted to give you that number so in case you were interested. The next item is the Juvenile Detention Center on page 91. You will notice one change, if you haven't noticed already. The operating transfers has increased from $1.1 million to $1.3 million in 2010. The reason for this significant increase is twofold. One is they were using a savings account in the prior years. They did not need to use as much from the general fund. They had saved up a few dollars. The second item is that they do have a reduction in revenue generated from outside sources from renting the beds. If it comes in higher, we'll bring it back to the council, but right now we've estimated it a little bit lower. Under the
No lights.
Oh.
No, you continue? Go
Oh,
ahead,
I'm just
continue.
reading the highlights.
Continue, go ahead.
And under the capital, they're only asking for one replacement vehicle, $20,000. And you'll notice the personnel changes, very insignificant changes there. He's moving a few positions around.
I see Mr. Jason is here. I don't see any lights. Do you have anything you want to comment about your budgets there? None whatsoever? Good job. Thank you. All right, continue, Ms. Elton.
Next item is the Civic Center on page 237. Under capital, they're requesting a wet dry vacuum for $1,500, and they would like to replace the retractable motor system for Hall A at a cost of $100,000. General fund will continue to supplement at a rate of $918,000, which is the same as 2009.
Is the Civic Center breaking even yet, or? Do we think whoever will get to that point? Not a chance, huh? Nada. Soon. Okay, I see no lights. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. The next item is on page 94. That's the parish jail. Okay, on everything except for medical, we have in the 2010 budget, $2.4 million requested. Under capital, they would like to purchase new chillers, $115,000, a washing machine, $14,000, and a dryer, $6,000.
Okay, Don't see any questions.
Okay, under the
continue.
medical section, $1 million, 1,158,000 is their total budget. The largest item that they have under contracts is $75,000 a year for the Haydell Clinic, and inclusion of dental care, ambulance, hospital, the medical services are estimated at $123,000. Under personnel, it is the same.
Seeing no lights, continue.
City Marshal, page 119. General fund supplement will continue to be the same. They have no significant differences. They have requested 2 4-door full-size sedans for replacing vehicles at a cost of $35,000 and a computer at $1,500.
Brian, Mr. Blanc, the vehicles that, can you come up for a minute? Let me just ask you a question. On the vehicles, do you go out for new vehicles on this, or you use this, or you get them from the state, or wherever where do you?
I think they buy them from the state.
From the
new.
state surplus, yeah, okay. That was my question. I see one light here from Mr. Tillman. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I got a list here for you. Get you ready. Pat.
Ms. Cavalier, hold on one second, still got some light.
Use of the 2 4-door sedans, every time that the marshal would come up here, he always wanted vans, because it was for transporting the, prisoners back and forth. What are the sedans for?
That's for my civil deputies that serving papers and the other guys.
The cars you have now, you're gonna surplus?
I'm gonna surplus 2 of them, yeah. I got 3 of them that are just about ready to go. So I'm gonna replace 2 of those.
Okay. Now, I had read on the, one of the objectives of the police department and everything, that before they surplus these vehicles, they have started taking off, the equipment that they have added to it. Is this a practice that y'all follow, or, because I would think that the marshal's car has special equipment in it, such as sirens
Some of 'em
and
do, yeah.
radios and all. Do you take all of that off for
Usually take-
backup?
Yeah, we usually take them out, and what we can use, we put it in the new one.
Okay,
Yeah, if it's usable. you know.
okay. And if not, do you save it for, in case of,
Right, yeah, we keep it.
All right, okay. I just want to make sure that there's a program ongoing and a inventory running of those supplies. So these 2 sedans will come to you and you will be responsible for outfitting them, or are they already outfitted?
I'll fit them.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further lights, thank you, Mr. LeBlanc.
All right, thank
Good
you.
job, thank you. Continue, Ms. Alford.
The next item is Office of Coastal Restoration and Preservation on page 126. They do have a grant estimated to be $33,000 from the Department of Natural Resources. Their coastal impact collections is budgeted at $175,000. When we presented the budget in 2009, we budgeted $250,000, which was an amount equal to what was collected in 2008. However, conservative estimates, we're bringing it down to $175,000. They're requesting in capital 1 laptop computer estimated to be $2,500. One new expense is the inclusion of the restore and retreat, $30,000. A general fund supplement will be coming in to pay for that, and it's for interaction with various governments and non-governmental constituency groups to ensure implementation of meaningful restoration projects in Terrebonne Basin.
Okay, I see one light, Mr. Kevin Vazan.
Thank you, ma'am. I think there's just a typo. I don't think we're gonna spend $200,000 on personal services. I'm guessing that's personnel, just to make sure. Just checking myself under expenditures. That was just a joke that didn't work apparently. I am actually, what I'm curious about is where it says other services and charges 71,000. What kind of things are included in that?
Oh, I can give you a list. 1 second.
If you could just give me kind of a quick.
Phone equipment, office equipment contracts, general liability insurance, engineering and consulting fees,
That's perfect.
classified ads.
Thanks. That's perfect. Okay.
Okay.
I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Seeing no lights?
Okay.
Very good. Continue.
Under the Police Department, page 101. They have a budget of $8.8 million. Under personnel, we do have one change to those items that are listed. He has an administrative person that is going to be retiring in the next couple of weeks, and he would like to replace that position with a patrolman. Each of you have been given a copy of the amended personnel. We're not going to be changing any of the dollars. It's pretty much can be absorbed with the salaries being almost equal. In addition to that, he's asking for the addition of one police sergeant, grade P3, the reclassification of 2 administrative coordinators, grade 104, to administrative technician, grade 102, the transferred administrative assistant to a police officer. And we'd like to make one note. They have recently applied for a COPS Universal grant, which would add 4 police officers, first-class positions, paid at 100% for the first 3 years, and 100% parish match for the 4th year. They're waiting any day for this word, so we will be coming back to you for an amendment if they are successful in this grant application. In the Capitol, they're asking for evidence room building, $50,000. On a recurring basis, they replace anywhere from 8 to 10 vehicles per year. They're asking for $432,000, and to replace an air intake improvement, I guess, is $100,000. Under the Weed and Seed program, we will continue the partnership with the Sheriff's Department and the city police officers at a cost of $50,000 a year, and they will be aggressively seeking a new grant through the federal government for a new Weed and Seed program.
Okay, I see no lights. Continue.
Okay, under the Fire Department, page 105. Under personnel, they're asking for the elimination of 1 fire inspector. Under capital, they'd like to set aside $50,000 for fire trucks in the future, and they would like to purchase 10 computers for the fire trucks, which would assist them in getting them to the fires at a cost of $25,000.
What is the reasoning? Oh, wait, excuse me, I have one light. Ms. Cavalier.
Yes, who wants to handle this? Mr. Todd? Hi. Okay, explain the 10 computers for the fire trucks. We have 10 fire trucks?
No, what it's gonna be is for the fire trucks and also the staff vehicles. It's a laptop computer that we're gonna put a mapping system on it and also pre-plans. We have to carry pre-plans for every business of the city, and in every truck, their district, they got like 3 and 4 3-ring binders that's about 3 inches thick, because there's like almost 2,000 businesses in the city. And at this time, we putting all this information on the computer on the firehouse program, and then when we get the computers, we're about to install it on the trucks. And that's all we'll have as a laptop instead of all these hard copies.
Okay, on these programs, who's doing all this programming for you?
I have one of my firefighters that's on maternity right now, so she's coming in and doing it.
Okay, and these computers are gonna be bought by the state contract?
Yeah, everything gotta go through IT.
You need to talk to Bobby back there, because last year when we went through this, y'all remember the computers for the police department? What the state had said we should get, he found we should do something different. Because you remember what I'm talking about last year? And it makes sense, okay? Because I really get into these computer things, because I think everybody thinks they have to have a computer when you can share computers real easily too. But one of the things that he said made sense if you went with what they said. One above, it may have been a little bit more, but it was worth the difference.
Right.
So I just would ask you to do that. I mean, it's not to mess you
Yeah,
up here, but
these are not no normal laptops. They gotta be tough, you know, because of
Right,
rugged. So-
right. And then you want them to always be able to be, upgraded whenever something new. So if you would just, last year I was impressed with his knowledge of it. So, I mean, I'm not saying that no one at your department isn't, but if you could just cross-reference and make sure that y'all are on the same level as far as, the knowledge on
Right,
these
right.
technical, support systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cavalier. Continue with lights, I have Mr. Tillman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, we noted that some years ago, at one of our meetings, we realized that you had some ongoing challenges with your retirement situation. How are things working out with that?
The retirement, I'm not following you, sir.
Okay. During one of our budget hearings quite some time ago, you guys were struggling with your budget and seeing how you was going to get your budget in place. And I think one of the challenges that y'all had at that time was the amount of money that was going into your retirement plan, and that was creating some challenges for you guys. Now, you weren't the chief at the time. Maybe you don't know at this time, but if you can look it up and get back with us and let us know how things are going with that.
I think what you're talking about is the percent that we gotta
Yes,
pay.
yes.
I believe it went back down, huh?
Okay.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
it did.
'Cause
But
that
I
was
had
taking a
heard
significant
rumor that it
amount.
was gonna be going back up.
Heard that too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I just have one question here. I see you eliminating one fire inspector. Is that a retirement or?
Well, what it was, when I took over, it was a vacant position, and I had the opportunity to fill it. I looked into it, and I felt that it was not needed. So, what I had requested to do was to eliminate that position and add a district chief, a 4th district chief, but that didn't go through.
Right. Well, I admire you for doing that. And that wouldn't hurt any of our ratings, anything in the city, huh?
No, what?
Insurance ratings, anything?
No, the one inspector that we have now, I believe he could handle the job that it entails.
Right.
And the district chief, the additional district chief, it was gonna be a relief. Right now, when the district chiefs go on vacation, most of the time we pay overtime. So I was just looking at a cost savings in the overtime, and then I don't have an assistant. So when he wouldn't have been being relief, he could have assisted me in doing the many projects that I got ahead of me.
Great, good deal. Okay, I have one more light, Mr. Kevin Vazan.
I don't understand what a fire inspector does, and I think I do, but rather than think and get it wrong, if you could explain it to me, that'd be great.
Well, he has two jobs, it's inspection and also public fire education. So he takes care of both of those. With the fire suppression personnel also, like right now, we go into the schools like crazy because of Fire Prevention Week and month, really, it's a whole month. But we need to do an annual inspection on every business, and like I mentioned earlier, we got almost 2,000 businesses. So if you do the math, he's pretty busy to try and catch every business, and that's our goal. We can't do every one per year, but that is our goal, and to inspect every business, annually.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay.
That's it. Okay, continue, Ms. Elbert.
I would like to make a correction. On page 101, when we were talking about the police department, the 10 replacement vehicles is actually 362,538 for the record. Okay, the next item is the insurance department. On page 242.
$240.
On page 242, the smaller book, this is a recap of all of the workers' comp, general liability, vehicle, fiscal plan, gas, electric, and boiler insurance, and the administration of the casualty insurance. That's the first section, which has an estimated cost of $8.7 million. These are estimates based prior to the actual bids coming in, so this may be subject to change depending on what our fiscal plant insurance will bring for our next year. Under capital, they're requesting one computer printer, $1,800, and one computer, $1,500.
Okay, no lights.
Okay, the next section is under the Group Health Insurance Fund, an estimated $15.3 million for 2010. We have left our expenditures basically the same in the anticipation that that will stay the same. However, we will not know until those bids start coming in at a later date.
Okay, no questions.
Under the next section, Human Resources, page 247. Expenditures, $609,000. This is a good news department. We're actually able to reduce the rate that we charge our other user departments from 2.8% to 2%. We've had low unemployment claims because we are self-funded, so we were able to reduce that fee. Under capital, they're asking for one printer scanner for $4,300 and a laptop computer, $2,500. Their major expenditures, legal fees, which has decreased about 14%, and unemployment claims, as you can see, we've practically cut that in half to $10,000, a decrease of $10,000 it's just 33% down, not quite in half.
Great, no questions. Continue.
Okay, we'd like to go back to the top and revisit the district attorney and criminal court fund. Page 29 would be the first one.
Continue.
Okay, the first one is the district attorney and his assistants at a cost of $813,364, leaving it at 21, one district attorney, 19 assistants, and one administrator.
Okay, no questions.
Okay, the next one is on page 199. This is the support staff of the criminal court fund. General fund would stay the same at $1,460,000. Total cost of the department is $5.8 million.
The operating transfer in is the same.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, no questions. Continue.
Okay, the district court, we don't have a representative. They must have something happened. We would like to review it, and if there's any questions, we can ask them to come back at a later time. Is that okay?
We don't have any lights.
Okay, for district court on page 26. This would be the last one. This is where we pay for the court reporters and the court administrator. The cost of $596,000. There is a slight increase because they are heavy in, their expenditures are mostly personnel, and we did have an increase in our procure retirement, so that's the majority of the increase.
No lights.
That's it.
Very good. Okay. Chair, anything else, Ms. Elford? That's it for tonight? The next meeting will be
Tuesday.
next Tuesday. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Ms. Williams? Seconded by Mr. Kevin Vazan. All in favor, say aye. Against, motion passes.